Society tends to equate intelligence with speed and conviction. We picture the smartest person in the room as the one who has an immediate answer for every question and never wavers in their beliefs. There is a distinct rush that comes with winning an argument. When you shut down an opposing view, your ego gets a hit of dopamine, reinforcing the feeling that your perspective is the only correct one. Data on cognitive flexibility shows a recurring pattern where this posture of absolute certainty often acts as a mask for a lack of depth. This graph maps confidence against actual knowledge. You'll notice a massive spike in confidence at the exact moment a person learns the bare minimum about a topic. This is the overconfidence bias, where a limited understanding creates an illusion of total clarity. That false sense of clarity locks them in place. Because they are convinced they already have the whole picture, they never feel the need to question their logic or seek out new information. True intelligence is a continuous, active process of revision. The moment you believe you are smart enough, you stop learning, and your cognitive ability begins to stagnate. When a mind is locked in this state of false clarity, it views contradicting information as a threat to be neutralized rather than a lesson to be learned. We are often conditioned to treat our opinions as a form of personal property. In this mindset, changing your mind feels like a public loss or a sign of intellectual weakness. Real intelligence is measured by cognitive flexibility, rewiring its internal network to update beliefs when strong evidence is presented. A rigid thinker does the opposite. Clinging to disproven ideas causes new data to bounce right off without altering their internal structure. This defense mechanism blocks growth. Over time, the inability to adapt creates fissures in their understanding, making them less capable of handling a changing environment. Highly intelligent people operate on the assumption that their own conclusions are likely incomplete. Meanwhile, less flexible minds report feeling absolute certainty about almost every subject they encounter. When you use your opinions as a shield for your ego, you turn your brain into a fortress. Safe, perhaps, but completely isolated from intellectual progress. This rigid, ego-driven mindset eventually has to find a way to process a world that is inherently chaotic and complex. To manage that complexity, a mind that prioritizes being right over being accurate will reduce multi-layered issues into absolute black and white, or always and never statements. This is shallow processing. It is a cognitive failure to handle nuance, where a textured reality is forcefully flattened into a simple, featureless square. What keeps a person's understanding at this surface level is a lack of curiosity. When a brain stops asking why or how, its expansion halts. Without curiosity, pathways for deeper understanding dim, and the system goes dark. Without the willingness to explore nuance, a person stops learning entirely, trapped in an oversimplified version of reality that doesn't actually exist. When that oversimplified worldview inevitably fails to predict reality, the rigid mind faces a choice. The common reaction is to avoid self-reflection by blaming the failure on external factors, bad luck, or the actions of others. Intelligence relies on metacognition, analyzing your own thought processes. It creates a continuous feedback loop where outputs adjust future behavior. Without metacognition, self-correction is impossible. The loop breaks and improvement flatlines because they never analyze themselves. True intelligence is rarely comfortable. It requires living in the gray areas and frequently acknowledging where you have failed. Overconfidence, rigidity, and the refusal to ask questions don't just limit your success. This mindset suffocates the biological act of thinking. Intelligence is not a measure of what you know. It is the courage to honestly realize how much you do not.